Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadankitam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagara Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Shri Lalita Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tatta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindeshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिनि नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणि निर्विशेषाय शून्यवादि पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणि जयो श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna and welcome you all to the online Bhagavad Gita classes from ISKCON Mangalore. So until the last class, right, we covered chapter 17. So today we'll start chapter 18. Yeah. So this is the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. So this is the perfection of renunciation. Yeah. So until the last chapter, we saw all the Jnana Yoga, right? So we saw the modes, right? The different modes we saw, and then we saw the faiths, the activities, the worships, yeah, and the austerities, yeah, the kind of food which one likes in the modes, right? So we went through all these sections, yeah. So today we'll be going through the next chapter, so which is chapter 18, yeah. So in this chapter, right? So this is actually a summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita, right? So whatever we have learned from chapter 1 to 17, right? This is a quick recap. 18th chapter is a quick recap of all the 17 chapters, okay? So again, there will be a discussion of Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, right? Again, we'll go through the Bhakti Yoga, and then at last, right? So again, Krishna will establish Bhakti Yoga to be the topmost, yeah. And so then Arjuna actually surrenders, yeah. Not surrenders. He's ready to fight now, yeah. So he accepts that, and then the sun last would be the Sanjay's commentary, and then we'll finish this chapter, yeah. But this chapter has 72 verses, yeah. So not 72, sorry, it's 78 verses rather, yeah. So it's a lengthy chapter, but we'll try to cover in two sessions, yeah. So again, right, again, as we know, right, so the whole Bhagavad Gita is what, again, question and answer, right? So all the questions, mostly the questions are from Arjuna, right? So and then Arjuna actually seeks so many clarifications, right? So he did clarify so many things, yeah, for us, right? Beginning from the first six chapters, right? So the first six chapters which were dedicated to Karma Yoga, right? And post that, so we saw the Bhakti Yoga, and then we saw Jnana Yoga, right? So again here also, so he starts again with the same question, yeah, saying that he asks the differences between Tyaga, right? So Tyaga and Sannyasa. So that is the first question which actually Arjuna asks to Krishna, and the flow continues from therein. So wherein Krishna will actually explain the differences between Tyaga and Sannyasa, yeah? And he'll actually tell so what the scriptures say, and then what his opinion is, Krishna's opinion, yeah. And then um, majority of the portion again will get diverted into the three modes. So here again we'll see what how the determination would be there in the three modes, how the happiness would be there in the three modes, yeah. So and so yeah, and how the doer, yeah. So we'll get into those Jnana bit also. So I can say that at least a good portion of it again is will be dwelling in the three modes, yeah. So how a person works in the three modes, yeah. So how is entangled, and then we'll touch little bit on varnashrama dharma, yeah. So then bhakti, yeah. Okay, so we'll get started, and let me share the screen. So and those who have joined late, right? So just a quick update that we should finish our quizzes, yeah. So if there are any pending quizzes, just try to complete them. If you have any difficulties, right, so reach out to Nandita Mataji if there are any technical issues or so, right? So wherein you're not able to, you have completed and then something is not getting updated, all those issues, you can reach out to Nandita Mataji. But do try to finish the quizzes, yeah. So and finish any. So I think that's it, right? Quizzes and the 4 rounds. So make sure that we are doing that to enter into the next level. Yeah. Yeah. So this is what we discussed in 17th chapter. Yeah. So the different modes which we discussed, and then this is the summary of 18 chapters. So whatever we are going to discuss, right? So there are different sections. So again, if you see, right, so it is entanglement of three modes, and then worshipping of the Lord through renunciation. So majority of the portion, if you see, right, so it goes into the modes, and then surrendering to the soul, yeah, working devotional service, again confidential information. Then Arjuna is firmly fixed, and then Sanjaya's prediction. So this is all which I spoke in, so which we'll be covering. So mostly a summary of all that was discussed. Okay. So here again the question, right? So the question is from Arjuna asking that what is the difference between Tyaga and Sannyasa? Yeah. So this is the summary of the first portion. Yeah. This is mostly towards the Karma Yoga. Okay. So 1 to 6 we'll be seeing a true sannyasi does not renounce his activities but renounces the fruits of his activities. Yeah. So renouncing, this is the gist actually of 7 to 12 verses is renouncing one's prescribed duties in illusion is ignorance. Renouncing one's prescribed duties out of fear is passion. But dutifully performing one's prescribed duties with detachment in renunciation is in goodness. So these are all things we'll cover in detail now. So here Arjuna asks, right? So again, so Arjuna says, Arjuna vacha sannyasya mahabhavo तत्त्वम् इच्छामि वेदुतं त्यागस्य च ऋषिकेश प्रत्यक् केशिन् केशिनि sudhana. So here again he wants to understand the purpose of tyaga and sannyasa. Okay. So what is tyaga and what is renunciation? So this is uh, sorry, what is sannyasa? Okay, so that is what now Lord will explain in. Yeah? So basically So here, if you look in, right, so Arjuna is actually addressing Krishna as Mahabhava, so like the most powerful one, okay, and even as Rishikeshana, and yeah, so as the master of senses, yeah, so he's addressing in that way, and then he's asking that please instruct me, yeah, and he says that Keshini Sudana, so the one who has killed uh, the demon Keshi. So Arjuna is addressing Lord to actually kill all the doubts which he has in him. So that's the purpose of addressing him in that way. Yeah. So here now we will see through, right? So now Tyaga is nothing but to renounce the results of all activities. Okay. And Sannyasam is nothing but to renounce the activities that are based on material desires. Okay. So these are basically the kamya karmas. Okay. The one wherein we have desires. Okay. So there are two different karmas, right? So nitya karmas and kamya karmas. Okay. So nitya karmas are nothing but the daily activities, the routine activities which we do in, right? So which we do it like offering garlands or say, doing a morning sadhana and all those things, right? So that is nitya karma, right? And then if you have something specific desires, right? So like to have a good body or say a good son and all those things, right? You perform a lot of rituals, right? So we'll have to renounce those activities, right? So those are all what materialistic desires, right? So to renounce those activities is nothing but sannyasa. Okay. So yeah. So here it is, right? Kamya karmana. The Supreme Lord said to give up the results of all activity is called renunciation. Okay. By the wise, and that state is called the renounced order of life by great learned man. So this is what the Lord says, right? And in the next in the next verse, right, he says that what the learned man, right, or the great sages have said, right? So he tells about them, and then he actually gives his own opinion. Okay. So he says that activities. So activities for advancement in spiritual activities are not given up. Okay. So basically, the activities which will actually help us to grow, right, in devotional service should not be given up. Okay. And so the other things, right, so which actually drag us, those should be given up. Okay. So like anything like chanting, right? So chanting helps us to purify our heart, right? So that should not be given up, right? But if there is any materialistic goal, right? So like going to the higher planet or say going to the Swargaloka and all those things, right? So those activities have to be given up, right? Okay. So that is what is mentioned here. So we'll just, so in 18.3, right, he says that the learned man or from the different scriptures, right, it's being said that all putative activities is faulty. So few of them, right? So few of the versions say that all putative activities is faulty. Yeah? Others say that the acts of sacrifice and charity and penance, right? So all these things should never be abandoned, or we should continue doing the good things. Yeah. So this is what is mentioned, right? Some learned man declare that all kinds of putative activities should be given up. Okay. Few of them declare that any putative activity, right, we should give it up. Okay. So this is one sect of people who think that all putative activities should be given up. Okay. So basically the Gyanis. But there are yet other sages who maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned. So these things, right? So which actually purify us, right? And then which will advance us in the devotional service, right? So we should never abandon them. Yeah. So we shall actually continue doing them. Okay. So now Lord gives his own opinion. Yeah. So that was what these are from the various learned persons, right? So we just saw in 8.3. Now the Lord actually gives his own version. Yeah. Okay. So the Lord says, right? The Lord's opinion stands above all. After that, the Vedas are defined. Okay. So this is nothing but we know, right? So from 15.15 that all the Vedas end up, right? So the Lord is the ultimate, right? So the knowledge from the Vedas is to know the Lord, right? So all our Vedic study and all the Vedas ends up with knowing that the Lord is the supreme personality of Godhead, right? So with that it ends. So Sarvasya Chaham, right? So in that verse it is mentioned, his word should be taken finally. So Lord's Krishna's opinion is that there are three kinds of renunciation based on three modes. Okay. So this is what the Lord says. And so few said that purity of action should be given, few said that penance charity should continue, right? So but the Lord says that renunciation is based on the three modes. Okay. So yeah. And then he'll continue. Okay. So now Krishna will actually continue saying that religious duties, right, should be carried on, right? So which purify the heart, right? So and even in 6.47, right, the Lord even mentioned, right? So like yoginam api sarvesham, right? So wherein he mentioned that of all the yogis, right, the one who has great faith and then who always think of himself, of the Lord, and renders transcendental loving service to him, right? So he is the most dear one, right? So we'll move to the next section. Yeah. Yeah. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great soul. So he says that all these things should never be given up. And then these are the things which actually purify, right? Purify the hearts of the great souls. Yeah. So here, right? So suggestion to yogis or advanced souls, sannyasi, is that they must perform acts for advancement of human society, right? And the purpose is to regulate the human mind so that it becomes peaceful for spiritual advancement. Yeah. So attitude of sannyasi, okay, should never discourage one in the lower stage of life. Okay. See, in reality, right? So a sannyasi, right, should not actually attend any of the marriage functions, or he should not actually talk to the um, female associates, right, or the devotees, right? But if at all, if it helps for the advancement of the devotees, right? So like if there are any of the disciples who wants to actually continue their devotional service by taking up grihastha life, right? So in those cases, right, so performing the vivaha yagna, right? So that is in line, okay? So there is no problem in it, right? So because the sannyasi is doing it for an higher purpose, right? So wherein the person will actually the person who wants to get married, right? So he wants to enter into the grihastha life, right? So instead of stopping him from doing it, right? So and then he takes into other paths, right? So instead of looking for other alternatives, right? So it is better to regulate his mind, right? And get him married, right? So the marriage ceremony can be performed. So like Prabhupada actually had when he went to the West, right? So in the West there is always this boyfriend and girlfriend approach, right? So wherein so that is how their culture was, right? But so initially when Prabhupada actually started the kirtans and then so when he launched this movement, right? So everyone was single and then they were like boyfriends and girlfriends. But uh, once they came into the shelter of Prabhupada, right? So he conducted the marriage ceremonies for them, right? So for the advancement. So in that, right? So if you see in, right? So there are a lot of couples, right, who came in, um, who actually flourished the moment, right? So and they went to London, right? So in London, they were grihasthas only, right? So which Prabhupada actually did the marriage ceremony, and then he sent them to London, and then so they took up the mission for better advancement, right? So all those things we should not give it up, yeah. So that is being told here, yeah. It is for purification of heart, especially if it is given to suitable person, it leads to. So this is for charity, okay. So like we did discuss, right? So charity should be given to a proper person at a proper place, yeah. So the charity should not be given to someone who wants to indulge in other activities, right? The sinful activities, also someone who is using it for intoxication and all, right? So we should not give charity, okay. So this is being discussed, yeah. So all these activities should be performed without any expectations of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty. So this is the final opinion, yeah. So whatever devotional service we do it, right? So it should be done as a as a matter of duty, right? So it shouldn't be done for some purpose, right? So if you have some agenda behind it, right, it loses the essence, yeah. So in that case we are not dependent on the Lord. So we are actually looking for plan A, B, C, right? So it will not work out, yeah. So prescribed duty should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Okay. So this is mode of goodness. 18.6, right? So this is the mode of goodness. Okay. So without attachment or without expectations of results, right? So as I said, right? So whatever devotional service we do, so it shouldn't be done for some agenda based thing, yeah. So everything should be done for the Lord, yeah. So now which one were we looking? 8.7, yeah. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be. So if one gives up, right, so the duties, right, so is renounced. So if one gives up the duties, right, the prescribed duties, then he is said to be in the mode of ignorance, right? So basically he is in illusion, right? So that's anyhow the opposite of goodness, right? And then next would be like the mode of passion. So wherein we'll see that where a person gives up the prescribed duties due to some troublesome thing, right? Say like bodily discomfort or something, right? Say like rising early in the morning, right? So in winter season to do our sadhana, if somebody gets fearful of raising early and then taking a bath and then picking up the chanting and all, right? So that that thing is nothing but mode of passion. Yeah. So wherein say we give up our prescribed duties for some petty things. Yeah. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. So this renunciation for the bodily comforts, right, is called mode of passion. And ignorance is all illusion. So leave it. Uh, and but he who performs his prescribed duty only because it is ought to be done and renounces all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation of nature is of goodness. Yeah. So who actually renounces, so he is not attached to anything and everything he performs as a matter of duty, right? And then who is not attached to the results, so that is mode of goodness. Yeah. There is a tabular form which actually gives you the whatever we discussed, right? 8.7, 8 and 9. This is a renunciation. Yeah. So renunciation in mode of goodness, passion and ignorance. So goodness, prescribed duties, reason is duty. Yeah. Prescribed duties he doesn't do because he he feels fearful, and then if he thinks that it is difficult, right? And illusions. Anyhow, ignorance is illusion, right? So he is in his own dream world. Yeah. Then, so now the Lord says the symptoms of proper renunciation. Okay. So one who is in the mode of goodness, right? So neither he hates, right? Or he doesn't think of auspicious work or inauspicious work and is not attached to it. Yeah. So for satisfying Krishna, right? So whatever comes in that path, right? They take it up, right? So they don't look in that, okay, so this is the only thing which I should do in and all those things. No. So they take up anything and everything which actually helps them to advance in Krishna consciousness. Okay. So they are not like sukha dukha and all those things, right? So they tolerate those all things. Yeah. So one does not hate anyone or anything that troubles his body. Yeah. Works in proper place and proper time without fearing the troublesome effects. Okay. So they don't look for the bodily pains and all, right? So like Prabhupada also, you can take the example, right? So wherein he had two heart attacks when he was going in the ship, right, to the US. So he did continue, right? So his journey. And then he didn't say that now I've got heart attack and then I'll actually come back, right? No. So he went to the West and then he preached, right? So whatever his mission was, right, to please Krishna and to please his guru, so he took up and then he went ahead, yeah. And then he has no doubts about the work, right? So even though there were a lot of people who couldn't understand so why he is taking that trouble at the age of 70, right? But he was clear so with his thoughts and all, right? So for them, right? So those are all say the renouncers in the mode of goodness, right? So yeah. So the intelligent renouncer situated in the mode of goodness neither is hateful. So for him, right, any service, right? So either the washing of pots or say the washing of the temple or cleaning the temple or say any seva, right? So he doesn't think that this is good or bad, this is high, low, so all those things he'll not get into those things, yeah. And in 8-point level, it is said that it is indeed impossible, yeah, for an embodied being to give up all activities. But he who renounces the fruits of action is called one who has truly renounced. So when we are, say, any living entity, right? So he cannot give up the work, right? So we'll all have to work, right? So for one thing or the other. So even to maintain our body or so anything, right? So we'll have to carry out certain activities, right? So it is not that we'll completely give up all the activities, right? So we'll have to say do all the worldly activities and then carry on our devotional service as well, right? And whatever work we do, right? So we actually should renounce it. So we should not look for the results of it, yeah. So we should bring Krishna into the center, okay. So we'll have to perform all our duties without attachment to the fruits, yeah. So that's basically the gist of it. So which is nothing but nishkama karma yoga, right? We should not be, we should not do sakama karma yoga, yeah. And then this is actually the wheel of cycle of birth and death, right? So for one who is not renounced the threefold fruits, so if you are not renounced, right, and then if you are attached to the threefold miseries or the fruits, right, so then you'll be actually moving from one species to the other, yeah. So the, so like for one who is not renounced, right, the threefold fruits of action, desirable and undesirable, right, and mixed, occur after death, both. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such results, yeah. So if you are attached, right, so you will be actually moving from one species to the other, right? So in the 8.4 million species, so we'll be actually moving from one species to the other. So that we actually have read through, right? So in our previous chapters, we have gone through this, right? So basically, we should actually get detached, yeah. So from the material things and then get attached towards the devotional things, yeah. So that is, that covers this 8.2 12. So with this, right, so the karma yoga, right, again Krishna actually has revised the karma yoga. So even in the karma yoga section we did read, we did touch base all these things, right? So wherein it was mentioned that you'll have to perform your activities and say live, say don't expect for the fruits, right? So leave it to the God, yeah. So even Krishna said, right, so he instructed Arjuna to actually think of him, right? He said, Ma, what was that verse wherein I don't remember the verse number, but wherein he says that remember me and fight Krishna, Arjuna, right? Krishna did tell Arjuna, yeah. So next we'll enter into the Jnana Yoga section, yeah. So yeah, so that is that Mam Smaran Yudhyacha. Yeah, so that verse I don't recollect fully. Yeah. So wherein Krishna says that you remember me and then fight Krishna, yeah, Arjuna. So here, right, and then in this section, right, this is Jnana Yoga, right? So now he touches, again he'll touch base little bit of Vedanta, right? So the five factors. So like in chapter 13, we went through it, right? So wherein it was what the soul, super soul, nature, uh, and then the doer, the true modes of material nature, the super soul, all those things, right? So he'll just again the Lord will touch base all those things in here, right? And then he'll again deep dive into the modes, okay, how they are being affected, yeah. So here in these verses, right? So the Lord says that, "O mighty armed Arjuna, learn from me the five factors which bring about the accomplishment of all actions." Okay, so all the actions which we do in, right? So they are actually accomplished by five factors. Okay, these are declared in Sankhya philosophy, and then this is quoted from Vedanta Sutra, right? To be the place of action, the performer, the senses, the endeavor, and the super soul. Okay, so this is the doer. Okay, yeah. So this is the body, this is the soul. Yeah, these are the senses. This is the endeavor and super soul, right? So all these things which we covered in chapter 13, right? So place of action is body. So that is basically called adhistan. Okay, and then the doer is nothing but the karta. Yeah. So and senses are known as karana, and endeavor is chesta. Yeah. So which is nothing but the effort, right? And daivam is nothing but the super soul. Yeah. So these are the five factors, okay, so which will actually guide us to do good or bad things. So whatever we do, right? So with the combination of all these things, right? So either we do a good thing or a bad thing, right? So either a religious or religious thing, right? We do it. Yeah. So again, religious and irreligious things we did touch base in our previous chapters, that any work which is done as prescribed in the scriptures, right? So that is the right work, right? And then which is against the principles of scriptural injunction, that is wrong work, right? So whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these five factors. Okay. So all these things, right? So in the next deck, we have those five elements which I discussed. So those five elements are also here, yeah. So the place of action and these things, yeah. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the five factor, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Yeah. So one who doesn't have this knowledge, right? So okay. So he's not very intelligent, is what is being said in this verse, yeah, 18.16. So these are the five causes, okay, so which actually perform every action. Okay, so as I said, right, so body, action, endeavor, soul, and super soul, right? So the senses are inputs, right? So and then these are desires, and then this is the soul, yeah, and then soul actually puts a petition, right? So he gives, he puts a petition to the super soul, and then super soul actually sanctions it, yeah. So this is, these are the five things, and then we'll see all these things in detail, yeah, how the three modes actually impact all these things. Yeah, so this is wrong actions, right actions, right? So this we actually covered. So the same thing, right? Work done against the principles of spiritual injunctions is wrong, right? And then this is right. So these are what um Daiva Sampada, and then this is Ashura Sampada, right? So we actually touch base those things, right? So now, right, in this chapter, right, so in this section, actually, we'll discuss all these modes, right? So one one's work according to 5 factors is dictated by the 3 modes of material nature. Okay, so how these 3 modes actually dictate all these things? Yeah? One's knowledge, one's action, yeah, and then performance of actions, one's understanding, determination, happiness, all these things, right? So we'll cover uh, in the mode of in the 3 modes. Yeah, so how one's knowledge gets affected in the 3 modes, one's actions, yeah, all those things will be covered in this section. Yeah. So this is a detailed section. Yeah. So these are 3 kinds of knowledge based on the modes of material nature. Okay. So that knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all existence, undivided in the divided, is the knowledge in the mode of goodness. Okay. So this is nothing but so wherein uh, a person, right? So who sees all the living entities as spiritual sparks, right? So for him, right, either a dog or an elephant or a person, right? So he treats everyone equally. So because he looks at the spirits, okay, and then he is not attached to the body, right? So he knows that the body is perishable and the soul is imperishable. Anyone remembers what that shloka is? Whatever I said, that's Vidya Vinaya Sampanna. Yeah? So that's just, so we actually touch base that, right? So for him, right? So who is in Samadhi, or so for him everything, right? So all the living entities are spiritual sparks. So that's the mode of goodness. So a person who has that knowledge, right? So and here, right, in 8.21, right, that knowledge by which a different type of living entity is seen to be dwelling in different bodies is knowledge in the mode of passion, right? So this is wherein these are the people who think that, see, the soul actually ends up with the body, right? So once the body is finished, there is no existence of the soul, yeah. And then say they categorize like American, Indian, yeah. So big, small, and all those things, right? Those are in the mode of passion, yeah. So wherein so everything is in materialistic mode, yeah. So that particular bit, right? So that is in the mode of passion, right? Say different bodies, right? Different types of consciousness, and then they don't actually think body is different, yeah. And then they feel that the consciousness is temporary, okay. And then the knowledge of ignorance, right? So wherein they feel that everything is body, right? So whatever they do, right? So all this work or the effort is actually to satisfy the bodily comforts, right? So and then to actually basically to satisfy the demands of the body, right? So they don't have any connection with the absolute truth, right? That is basically the animal life, right? So yeah, and that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as that in all. So he feels, right? So everything is related to the maintenance of the body and all, right? So without knowledge of that truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. He doesn't have any information about the soul or anything, right? So for him, it's all money and his body. That's it. And then now we'll descend into the next one. So acts, kinds of action based on the modes of material nature. Okay. So that action which is regulated and which is performed, right, without attachment, without love or hatred, and without desire for furtive results is said to be in the mode of goodness. So these are the modes of three kinds of actions. Okay. It's nothing but the one, right? For the mode of goodness, right? So this is again the Nishkam Karma Yoga, right? So he does in, and then so he is not attached actually. So whatever work is done, right, it is regulated. So whatever it is there in the Shastra, right? So he does it, right? So whatever is required. So he offers the food to the Lord, and then he actually takes it, right, as prasadam, right? So anything which is regulated, so his sleep is regulated, everything, right? So that is in the mode of which is sanctioned and sanctified, right, as per the scriptures. So that is in the mode of goodness. But wherein actions performed with great effort, right, by one seeking to gratify his desires. So wherever we have this, right, this gratification, sense gratifications, and then there are desires, right? So I, me, mine comes in, right? So then that particular action goes into the mode of passion. Yeah. And then there is mode of ignorance. So actions performed in illusion. Yeah. And then he doesn't follow any of the scriptural injunctions. Yeah. And then everything, right? So it's actually done in violence or say some other means, right? So causing distress and all, right? That is mode of ignorance. That action performed in illusion, in disregard of scriptural injunctions, and without concern of future bondage or for violence or distress caused by others is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So this is all another level of work. Yeah. So this is basically the reverse of the goodness. Yeah. So if you see in, right, actions in goodness is nothing but regulated, right? Right. He doesn't have performed without any attachment or without love or hatred. So that is actions in goodness. Action in passion is nothing but sense gratification, right? And then to collect money, so to earn more money, yeah. So to have bigger houses, bigger cars, right? So all those things, yeah. And so this never ends, right? The cycle goes on. And action in mode of ignorance is nothing but nothing in conjunction with the scriptures, right? So without concern for violence or distress, say they don't mind, right? Say they don't mind killing animals, yeah. So they don't mind looting people, yeah. So it's all a different ball game there. And then three kinds of workers. Now we'll see on the modes of material nature. Okay. So the worker who is free from all material and attachments and false ego, who is enthusiastic and resolved, and who is indifferent to success or failure, is a worker in the mode of goodness. Okay. So he is not bothered about success or failure. Yeah. And then who is enthusiastic, right? Uh, so all the time he's enthusiastic, whether it is success or failure, right? He is a person in the mode of goodness. So again, we can take the example of Srila Prabhupada, right? So when he went to the West, there were no followers for him, right? So he was all alone. So he was not in distress or so he was not looking for success or failure, right? Even in India, right? So when he was there, when he was trying to establish Krishna consciousness, right? He struggled, right? So he struggled for 40 years in India. And then so he didn't give up, right? So he rather took up and then he went to the US, right? So he never looked up for success or failure, right? So he was looking for a higher purpose, right? So and he was always enthusiastic, right? Until the mission caught up, right? Still and right. So he was the same, even when everything was flourishing, right? And when he built 108 temples, right? In there also he didn't have any. He was not looking the success also, right? So he was equal. So when he had money also he was equal, and then when he didn't have money also he was equal. So he didn't have, there was no change basically. So all the time his focus was on devotional service. That's it. But in the next category, right? But that worker who is attached to the fruits of labor and who passionately wants to enjoy them, right? Who is greedy, envious, and impure, and moved by happiness and distress is a worker in the mode of passion, right? So who actually becomes happy when he earns money, and then when he loses money, he becomes distressed or whatever it is, right? So he can't take up, right? So because he always is attached with the material things, right? So he wants to sense gratify. For him, right, anything, because he's too attached to those things, right? So anything which is um not achievable, or say the one which he wants to achieve, if he's not able to achieve, right, he becomes unhappy. The reason is he's attached, right? So he thinks that okay, he wants those fruits, he wants to enjoy the fruits, right? So once you have that enjoyment mentality, right, so then you'll have this sorrowness, yeah. So that comes in here, in the mode of passion. And then in the mode of ignorance, that worker who is always engaged in work against the injunction of scripture, who is materialistic, cheating, expert in insulting. So he doesn't mean, right? So he can talk anything, everything, right? Who's lazy, always morose and procrastinating, who actually pushes things. Yeah. So which needs to be done, right? Okay, this can be done later on, all those things, right? So is in the mode of ignorance. Yeah. If you see in, right? So this was a good example wherein we spoke about Srila Prabhupada, right? So he was always determined, right? So he was not wavering in success or failure. Mode of passion attached to work and fruits, right? Because he wants to enjoy, right? If you snatch this particular piece of cake or chocolate, right? So this boy will try to try, right? And then you see, so for sense gratification, he is having so many things, right? So all this is too much attached, right? And then this is all cheating business, and then sleeping, unhealthy habits, unhealthy food, intoxication, procrastination. This is all right in the mode of, these are all the workers in the mode of ignorance. Yeah. So then three kinds of intelligence. Okay. So here in 8.30, right? So the Lord says that that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating. That understanding is in the mode of goodness. Okay. And then the other one, passion is nothing but one, you cannot distinguish between religious and irreligious things. Yeah. And what is action, what is inaction, because he doesn't have a perfect understanding, right? So that is mode of ignorance, passion. Yeah. And then for ignorance, right? Whatever irreligion is, he thinks it's a religion. Yeah. Whatever religion is, he thinks that's a religion. So this is total darkness. Yeah. So this is the kind of intelligence based upon the modes of material nature. Yeah. So whatever in the mode of goodness, right? So basically, he takes up the scriptural injunctions, right? So that's basically called pravriti, right? So yeah, so that's the thing. And basically the directions which we take in, right? So this is totally in a wrong direction. Yeah, so he knows in so what path to follow, so that he uses his intelligence in that way wherein he gets liberated. But this is confused. Yeah, so passion is always confused. Yeah. So now we'll see three kinds of determination. Okay, so that determination which is unbreakable, okay, which is steady, which is sustained with steady fastness by yoga practice, and thus controls the mind, life, and the acts of senses. So this is who has total control, samadhi, right? He is in the mode of goodness. And that determination by which one holds fast to furtive result in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is known as mode of material nature, right? So all this urbanization and all those things, right? So that is nature, right? So that is in the mode of passion. Yeah? And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion. So dreaming is nothing but oversleeping and all those things, right? And he is always in this. So dreaming is not bad, but say dreaming for things say which you're not endeavoring, or say like oversleeping, all those things, right? So that doesn't help in, right? So daydreaming, right? So all those things will not help in. So when you have to perform your activities, right? So you're not doing that, and then you're dreaming at that time, right? So like in the exam, right? You'll have to go and write the exam. Instead, you start daydreaming there, right? So what will happen? So the results will be of similar results we'll get in, right? So we may not pass the exam also, right? Such an unintelligent determination is in the mode of darkness. Yeah. So in the mode of goodness, right? So like Prahlad Maharaj, right? So everything is that determination is unbreakable, right? So so whatever you do in, right? So he was always um, his senses were always controlled, and then his focus was always on Narayana, right? So that is determination in goodness. Yeah. Single, Ananya Bhakti. So total focus. Right? And then one who holds fast to figurative results, right, in religion. So whosoever, all these are economic developments, right? So all these things, right? So sense gratification. Yeah. So that is in the mode of passion. And determination is nothing but, say, this one, determination in ignorance is nothing but always fearful, morose, yeah, dreaming, in illusion, yeah, all those things will come under. This is the determination. So he'll never think of any positive thing, so wherein he can come up and then work, right? So he is into his own world. And then this is the three kinds of happiness, right? So three kinds of happiness are based on the modes of material nature. Yeah? Okay. So even the happiness, right? So they are also based on the three modes of material nature. A conditioned soul tries to enjoy material happiness again and again. Okay. So we know that this is mundane thing. Okay. But still we want to do the same thing. Okay. So we want to do the same activities, right? Say if someone gives us an work, right? Saying that, so if there are, say, two buckets, right? So one bucket is full and the other bucket is empty, and then he says that you pour this bucket full of water into the other bucket, and then you continue the same process for the whole day, and the next day, for the months, years. So whatever things we are doing in this materialistic life, right? So those are like that only. So we are actually chewing the chewed. Okay. So which doesn't give any further advancement. Yeah. So it is mundane, monotonous thing. Yeah. But sometimes in the course of such action, right, if we get an association of a great soul, right, we'll actually get relieved from these things, and then we'll actually take up the higher purpose. Yeah. So that is described in 8.36, and 8.37 says that that which is in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization is said to be in the mode of goodness. So this, right, is happiness, right? So initially, which is very, say, it's like poison, right? It's very bitter, right? So anything, so, which we take up, right? So even, say, like for a student, right, studying, right, so getting up early in the morning, or say doing his homework, or going through his textbook syllabus, and then covering all the topics, so preparing every day, right, if one does in, right, so that is a little bit painful, right, so because they'll be in the mood of a playful thing and all those things, right, so if they are focused, and then if they take little pain at every day, right? So at the beginning, then when they go on the examination day, right, they don't have to struggle. They go, they write the exam, and then they pass with flying colors, right? So the result is nectar. So they enjoy the result, right? So initially it is bitter, but after that it is sweet. Yeah. Similarly, our sadhana, right? So to get up early in the morning, so it is little bit so not that comfortable during our initial days, right? So but once you are practiced, right, so you'll automatically get up at that time, and then so the after chanting, right, so whatever pleasure you get in, right, say that taste, if you get in, then that's again sweet. Yeah. And that happiness which is derived from contact of senses with their objects, and then appears like nectar at the first but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion. Okay. This is passion, so which actually the taste initially looks to be sweeter, but after that it becomes poison. Yeah. As in the purport also it's been mentioned that, so when a boy and girl meet, right, so initially they look each other, and then so they handhold, and then all those process, right, so they actually wait for each other and all those things, right, those are initially it looks very sweeter, but once they as they advance, right, and so when all the courses are done, right, so at the end, right, so they feel it to be poisonous. Yeah. Say they break up the relations and everything, right, so it's like that. That's mode of passion. And this is mode of ignorance, wherein there is delusion from the beginning to end, which arises from sleep, laziness, illusion, right? So this is nature of ignorance. So the happiness which is blind to self-realization. Okay. So herein, right, so you can take the example of drunkards, right? So whatever they drink, right, so they actually drink all bittery things, right, so which doesn't have taste. So even while drinking also, right, so any, it doesn't give any pleasure, right, so it's all bittery taste, and after that, right, when it goes to the into the body also, right, it damages the body, so it doesn't do any good, right, so that's mode of ignorance. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we covered this. Now we'll cover this. Yeah. So, and then here, um, the Lord says, right, there is no living being existing, or there is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planet system, which is freed from these three modes born of material nature, right? So everyone, right? So even Lord Brahma and Shiva and everything, right? So they are all in the modes of material nature. Yeah. So in the higher planets also, right? And then in the higher planets also, we did study that even in the Brahma Loka, right? So the life period would be longer, but our body is perishable there also. Yeah. So in all the living entities, right, all the beings, right? So they are actually bound by these three modes of material nature, right? So which is actually controlled by the Lord. Okay. And then, yeah, so we'll cover this section and then we'll wrap up for today. Yeah. So because we started a little bit late, so we'll cover this and then end up today's session. Yeah. And then the Lord actually comes up now, right? So here, if you look in, right, in this summary of yoga ladder, right? So now he comes into the other section. So wherein whatever actions we perform, right, everything is bound by three modes, right? So now if you look in, right, say as all the work is controlled by the modes, right? Yet how can one become free from these reactions of work, right? So for this, the Lord says that one can get free, okay, from these modes of material nature, so by acting as in Varnashrama Dharma, okay, right, in Nishkama Karma Yoga, while worshipping the Lord throughout that work. So whatever occupation we have, right, so we take it up, right, so we do it, and then keeping Lord at the center. So if we do that Nishkama Karma Yoga, right, this work, even if faultily done, it is better than accepting another occupation, right? Prescribed duties are never affected by sinful reaction. So this is the section which deals with it. Yeah. So all this time we saw all the modes of material nature, right? So, and then as everything is getting impacted with the modes of material nature, right? So how do we actually get free? So we can get freed up by doing Nishkam Karma Yoga in our respective ashramas. Yeah? Four kinds of ashramas based on the modes of material nature. Okay. So this is Brahmanas, right? So this is Kshatriyas. So Brahmanas have 9 qualities. Kshatriyas have 7 qualities. Yeah. And then this is for Vaishyas and Sudras. Yeah. So So these are all the qualities of Brahmanas, right? It's peaceful, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, right? Knowledge and religiousness. These are the qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Yeah? So it's not by the birth, yeah. So it is by these qualities. Okay. And then heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the qualities of Kshatriyas. And farming, cattle raising, and business are the qualities for the work of Vaishyas. And for the Shudras, there is labor and services to others. So if you look in, right, so most of our stuff is like Shudras only, right? So we work for some organization, right? So, so that's something which we are working for others, right? So we are trying to serve others, right? So that's Shudra class, yeah. So this is how the Varnashrama is there, right? So in the Varnashrama system, right, one acts according to his inherited modes of nature, but does so in regulated service to the Lord. Okay. So this is in conjunction with the scriptures. Okay. As one progresses in dutifully detached work, he is elevated through the modes until he is qualified to give up work and exclusively cultivate the knowledge. Yeah. See how Varnashramas helps. Okay. So, so these are nothing but we have inherited the modes of nature, but we'll have to perform those activities in a regulated way. Yeah. So basically regulated way is nothing but following the Shastras. Yeah. And these are the qualities of Kshatriyas, right? And heroism, power, determination, uh, resourcefulness, generosity, all those things, courage. And farming, cow protection, and business is the qualities of Vaishyas, and qualities of Shudras is service and labor. Okay. Okay, I think we'll stop here, and tomorrow we'll continue from 18.45. So Mataji has shared the attendance. Whosoever has not marked the attendance, please mark it. Yeah. So once more a reminder, so do complete your quizzes. Yeah. Mataji, so did we actually give the link for level 3, or say are we waiting for the quizzes, Mataji? Hare Krishna. Did I mute? No, right? Okay, possibly Nandita Mataji is not there, but do try to complete your quizzes. Anything, any questions you want to ask related to today's topic? Hare Krishna, go ahead, Pankaj Prabhu. So you are unmuted, right? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, yeah, official Purnima also. Prabhuji,
Can you
like
speak a little
God,
bit louder?
hello.
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Good.
Prabhuji, my question is,
Uh,
like we must always be asking for devotion for bhakti from Lord.
hmm,
But Prabhuji, when we have seen so many cases like Gajendra Maharaj, like when he was in trouble, he asked God for help. So is asking help for God, because we know this sansar, like we know that dukhalam ashashtam, right? So
hmm,
definitely, like we all are going through many problems in life, and we seek out help for the God in many ways.
hmm,
Like there are like some trouble, some people trouble, or any other trouble, some financial or emotional, etc., etc. Prabhuji, so asking help for the God,
hmm.
like praying to Krishna to take us out, just like how Arjun. So is it like again being a materialistic person, like instead of like asking God to give us his devotion, like we are asking like um to help us navigate through the problems that we are currently going through. So yeah, that's was my question, Prabhuji. Like, is it like uh, a kind of materialistic thing, which again uh, to like ask for help for God? Thank you,
See,
Prabhuji. Hare
asking
Krishna.
help for devotional service and all those things, right? So that is good, Prabhu. Okay. So if you are asking, so if you are praying to the Lord to get advanced, or if you are praying to the Lord for someone else, right? So to actually advanced, to get advanced in Krishna consciousness, and all those things are good. But if we are asking something, right, I need a good wife, right, and then I need a beautiful wife and all those things, right, or say I need children's with all intelligence and all those things, right? So you're striving, or you're doing some yajna for those all things, right? Those are not recommended, Prabhu. So like even say there are a lot of yajnas and all to actually give a birth, right? So to actually give a birth of a son, right? Only to have a son, not to have a daughter. All those things we should not do. Okay. So anything which actually advances, right? And then you touch base the story of Gajendra, right? Prabhu said Gajendra was what? He was King Indradumna in his past life, right? So he actually, his problem was he was also a great devotee, but due to some slackness or some laziness, right? See, he didn't actually uh, receive properly the rishis, right? He was, I think it was Agastya Rishi, right? So as he didn't actually receive him properly, and then Agastya Rishi said that so you'll become an elephant, and then he cursed that you'll become an elephant, right? And then say when the crocodile actually caught Gajendra's leg, right? So then he actually recalled all the prayers which he had done in his previous life, right? So he got those consciousness, and then he started praying in that distress, right? So because he could know, he tried to fight with the crocodile, but he knew that it is not his ground, right? Had it been on the land, right, it would have been fraction of seconds wherein the crocodile would have been killed. But it was in the water, so wherein Gajendra didn't have the power, right? So he was losing the power in the water, and then because of his previous pious karmas in his previous life, right, he got that enlightenment at that time, and then he started praying to the Lord, and then the Lord came and actually delivered him. Yeah. So all those things are good, Prabhu. So, but anything which is materialistic, right? Say like today I have a 2 BHK, give me a 3 BHK, give me a villa. All those things are materialistic. So we shouldn't go into that angle. Okay, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, after like coming into Krishna consciousness, so I can feel like yeah, the urge for the material desires have been reduced a lot of like many fold. Just the thing is like sometimes there are times where we are going in distress in many personal. So, just wanted to understand.
So
So,
every
is
so
asking
good, Prabhu.
so
Yeah.
asking Krishna's help to navigate us through from this situation, so that again, because sometimes all these situations, Prabhuji, cause a hindrance in the bhakti, because again, as say Krishna said, like control of senses, because these situations, like you said, like person who is like properly a Krishna conscious is equipoised person, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes because of the situation, the uh, things change, and this causes the main thing that causes the kind of hindrance in the bhakti also, like sometimes we delay in praying, or sometimes we delay in chanting, or sometimes we doing service of Krishna, like so at that time, like it feels like a guilty, like, oh, because of this thing I got delayed. So that's the actually concern, Prabhuji, like asking Krishna to please help us
Yeah, yeah.
overcome
See,
the situation.
Krishna is a super soul. He knows everything. Yeah. So, if say if there are any unavoidable circumstances where we are not able to perform our duty, right? So, or we are not able to do our sadhana, right? So, in that case, Krishna knows it, right? And then, if we are purposefully, say, if we are ignoring things, right? Even that also Krishna will take into account. Yeah. So, we should continue our sadhana, and then we should actually purify our heart and everything, Prabhu. So because we are still at the sadhaka stage, right? So we are not fully dependent on Krishna, right? So we have started our baby steps, right? So we'll slowly get into those things, but the only thing is we should have full faith on Krishna, and then say do our activities, right? And then Krishna will guide us, from so he'll guide us. He's there with us. He knows all our good and bad things, right? If we are in distress, and then he opens the door, right? So we may be stuck saying that there is only one door, but he knows that there are multiple doors, and then he gives us this enlightenment, and then he opens the other. Yeah. So only thing is we should not give up, right? So as I said, right, you see, Prabhupada didn't have success for 40 years. So did he give up? No. But we are not that advanced though, Prabhu. But I'm just giving you an example. So wherein we should continue our endeavor. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, just one last thing, just last question. Prabhuji is asking bhakti of Krishna from Tulsi Maharani and Radharani. Is it appropriate? Like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
while doing Tulsi. Okay, okay, Prabhuji. Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.